Welcome to Balanced Life with Debbie Carlin Boyle. Conversations connecting to a healthier you. The show that gives you all the latest and greatest health and wellness information to inspire you to live a life of balance and joy. Debbie Carlin Boyle is a health and nutrition coach, personal trainer, and fitness instructor who helps her clients live in balance with everything that feeds us, in addition to the food on our plate. Please welcome your host, Debbie Carlin Boyle.
Hi, hello, welcome everybody to my show. Welcome, happy afternoon to you, and thanks for joining me today. I am your host, Debbie Carlin Boyle, and this is Balanced Life. It's conversations that connect to a healthier you. And again, we're going to connect to one of those conversations today, and I invite you to join us here today. So if you have a pen and you're listening or you're watching, and I think you're going to have a question or a comment to make today during the next 50 minutes of this interview with this fabulous guest. So I want you to write this number down, 323-524-2599, 323-524-2599. Call in, make a comment, ask a question. Now, if this is after the show or you don't want to call in, but you still want to make a comment or ask a question, you can go do that on my Facebook page, which is Balanced Life by Debbie. Just go there where we're streaming live on my Facebook page right now, and you can make a comment or ask a question, and one of us will get back to you post-show. I always read the comments, and I always get back to people. So again, thank you for joining us. I also want to let you know, as you well know, I am a health and nutrition coach, and I'm a personal trainer, fitness instructor. I've been lucky enough to be back in the saddle again and teaching my cycling classes, all outdoors, of course, during this time. I'm hoping that changes. It may not be sometime soon, but hopefully we'll get back in again. But I'm offering health coaching sessions right now, and you can go to my website, which is balancelifebydebbie.com, and you can sign up for a free health coaching session, and we can talk about anything or everything that you feel like your body has been going through, especially during this last 6-7 months. Holding on to a lot of anxiety will cause weight gain, will cause sleep problems, so many issues that I'm here to help you with. And we can do it all over Zoom. So it doesn't matter where you're at in the country or the world. I'm here to help you. Having said that, I'm doing a contest and I'm announcing the winner. This contest has been going on for the last month or so. And I'm announcing the winner next month on my show, which is the 22nd of September next month. My next show, which is in 2 weeks, the 22nd of September. And all you have to do is subscribe to my YouTube channel to be submitted to be part of the contest. So if you're not already a subscriber or a client of mine, you're eligible. And to do that, you just go to YouTube, Balanced Life by Debbie, and hit subscribe. And I usually see who's on there, and I'm going to draw a name on the 22nd. I'm actually going to have my engineer here do that for me and see who wins. The winner is going to get health coaching sessions with me and personal training via Zoom. And it's a huge package that's worth almost $2,000. In addition, I'm throwing in an Amazon gift card. So all you have to do is subscribe to my YouTube channel. So do that when you get a chance. So I thank you again for joining us today, and we're going to get right to it. So my guest today has a story to tell, because did you know there's a deeper story to pain relief that can resolve the pain in your life and your body? My guest today works with her clients to heal from the inside out. Tarnie Fulloon is the creator of Body-Centered Medicine, a somatic healing practice that uncovers the messages the physical body is holding about how you think, what you feel, and who you are. Tarnie's expertise lies in transforming pain and anxiety at a cellular level by uncovering the inner landscape for answers to body's pain and symptoms, anxieties, and stuck places one feels in life. She is a healer, a mentor, a speaker, a TEDx presenter, and a budding author. She's also a previous Australian-trained sports medicine physiotherapist. Tarnie enjoys partnering with those committed to their healing on all levels, physically, emotionally, mentally, and spiritually, and to empower them to be grounded in their body and lead from the inside out. Important phrase there, lead from the inside out. So to talk all about how body-centered medicine works, will you please welcome my guest to my show, Tarnie Fulloon. Welcome.
Thank you, Debbie. It's lovely to be with you.
Thank you. I'm so glad we got you, that we were able to grab you. You are a very busy person in the work you're doing, and I'm glad that I got to have you in studio today, that we're back in studio. And for our audience, we are way more than 6 feet apart right here, so it's really lovely to have you as a live guest, should we say. I think the quality, it's great to do Zoom too, but the quality of the show is always better.
Well, I was glad to be here. It's good to be here.
Thank you. So we're going to get started right away with your background.
Okay.
Obviously, you have an accent. I hear it's Australian. The audience can hear it's Australian. But let's talk a little bit about you and where you grew up, and which will lead us into all of these things that led to where you are now,
yes.
and here, living here in the States.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about you.
So was very lucky to have grown up on a big property, actually not considered very big in Australia. Yes, I am Australian. I grew up in New South Wales, Australia, on the Great Dividing Range, which is our little mountain range that runs through the east coast of Australia. And we had, I think it was 2,000-acre property with 6,000 sheep. 4,000 of those sheep were lambs, so we raised fat lambs for market. So I love going to Costco to get the lamb, because I know it's Australian lamb and I know where it's coming from.
Oh, is that true? Costco only has Australian lamb, or I think
they have other, but it often says Australian lamb, because there's also New Zealand lamb,
right?
And there's, I think, Iceland lamb and other lambs, but I always go.
So
for the
your
Australian
family
lamb.
business, was this part of your family business?
This is it.
Up?
There was mum, dad, and my brother and I, and then a few other workers came and went. But yeah, we shore sheep and mustard sheep, and so I used to ride motorbikes and work dogs and build fences and drench sheep, and I was
so cool.
Very physical girl.
Wow. Well, yeah, you grew up with exercise being part of your life, just working the ranch.
Exactly.
That's a lot of acres right there. That's a lot of land.
It's actually quite small for Australia, but it was very intensive farming. And I lived it was also quite isolated, even though we were up in the mountains. So my brother and I had to go away to school. We went to boarding school when we were 12. Everybody leaves home all the kids around leave home when they're 12.
And 12 is basically...
That's high school for Australia.
It is high school I was going to say, because here it would be considered junior high.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, so you're about 12 or 13, and then you go to the last 6 years of school.
I get it. Okay.
School.
That does make sense.
Yeah.
So growing up in that region, was it a little bit colder than Australia and other parts of Australia?
Yes. Well, it is actually in northern New South Wales, but yes, it's a place called Guyra, near Guyra, and if anybody knows anything about New South Wales, it's one of the coldest places in New South Wales, and it's we got snow in winter, and not skiable snow though. And in summer, there was only 2 weeks of the year that I didn't have to wear a jumper or a sweater, covering in the summertime. And it snowed on Christmas Day, which is the middle of winter once when I was young.
Oh, well, that's
so it's
nice,
cold.
Which a lot of Australians don't know. My best friend is from Melbourne. So, she didn't
Mum grew up in Melbourne.
Oh, she did?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, yeah, I know Melbourne well.
Well, what an interesting family business. So you went away for boarding school, and that was in Australia, was boarding school?
Yes, there was a country boarding school. A lot of the country kids went there, so you sort of felt at home. And that's where my really dearest friends are. I know I've lived here for, I think I came in 94, so someone can do the math. Is it 20-something years?
Yeah.
And is that right? I don't know. Anyway, and then, but I came in 1994 to do my master's, and those friends are still, my dearest friends. It's amazing.
Yeah. And so when you went away to boarding school, do you ever go back home after that? Because you go off to school?
No, you go, school
to
holiday.
college?
You go school holidays backwards and forwards, and you go off to college. But you always came home and went to Sydney to do my physiotherapy degree, and we always come home at holidays. Yes, it's a trek.
Yeah,
but
but that was just coming home for the visit. You never really moved back home from that point
And then
on.
my dad died when I was 21 of cancer.
That happened to me when I was 20.
Wow, yeah.
It's hard losing a dad at that young, right? You feel.
It was hard, and it was also a relief. Unfortunately, my dad liked to drink and was a bit of a rageaholic, so that's partly led me into the work I do because of the trauma I suffered as a child. Just with we lived on a property, it was all about the physical world, and you just had to get on with it, and then there was all this underlying sort of stuff that didn't get emotionally. There's no emotional or spiritual work at all.
Right.
Or conversation.
Right. You just kind of buck up and you do the work.
And you stuff down any of your feelings and keep going. And, if Dad was angry or raging, you just sucked it up. And so that sort of partly led me into, that's part of, you asked me about my journey. That was part of what took me into what
And that's why I like to hear the story, because I know that as soon as you said that about your dad, I realized that there is trauma that your body was probably holding on to, which led you to do what you do. And then once you heal yourself, you go on and help other people and do the same.
Exactly. I used to have these violent stomach aches as a child, and they took my appendix out. And, of course, there was nothing wrong with my appendix. So, and years later I discovered, and I love that you're a nutritionist, because years later it was food that partly started me on my journey.
Your health journey.
My health journey, because I was getting all these stomach aches, and I'd put on some weight, and I was feeling foggy head, and I just wasn't feeling good. Even though I had quite a successful business at the time, I just wasn't. And one of my clients came in and described all my symptoms. So I tripped off to the doctor, and my life's just never been the same since.
Right. It's so funny. One of my sayings is the first thing, if you hit my website, is that food changes everything.
Yes.
But it changes everything, but it isn't everything.
That's right.
And it's the top of the food chain, if you will, in terms of things that have to change in your life.
Yes.
If you're, and if your body, if you're in pain, if you have an illness, if you have foggy brain, if anything is happening in your body, food can make that difference, because it's got to pass through your digestive tract we eat food for a reason. It fuels us. It keeps us alive, but it also can harm us. So we want to eat real food. We don't want to eat the chemicals that harm us. And so understanding what to put in your body has to do with everything else. And then someone like you comes along with the work that you're doing that brings it so full circle, because you go from, like you said, the inside out. The food does the physical part of it, but you have to do the other work besides what you feed. There's a lot of things that feed us, but you really get to the emotional holding on that, it's almost like you and I are, we're bookends to each other, and everything in the middle is what the clients need to understand about themselves. I love that. So you finished college, and then you said you went to grad school to...
Well, I finished college. Yes, we call it, because we call it. I finished
university
with my physical therapy degree. Okay. I had a business for a number of years, and then because of the work, because of that experience with the food, I'd started already dabbling in some personal growth work, but I had this experience with my food that literally changed within a month or two, I felt like a totally different human being. And then I started doing the deeper work and exploring that further. And then I started discovering my hands were very intuitive. I knew that people were getting results with what I was doing, but I didn't equate it to, I thought it was just, I had some good skills.
Yeah.
And so then my intuitive self then came forward, and that ultimately took me to do my master's in psychology, in spiritual psychology here at USM.
Yeah, USM. Yeah. It's interesting that you saw that your hands had the ability to help with the healing. I'm going to dig deeper into that as we go further, because I like that once you got that clear head, once you started feeding yourself physically correctly, things just opened up. All these doors open in your body, literally, that allow you to see who you are meant to be, is what I think.
Yes.
And so, what I do is I initially get people to open up those doors. And again, we're two bookends that can help people really live their best life of joy and free of pain. I always say, and my book is all about longevity with quality. But there's so many things that come together for that. So, but you came here, you said 1994? Did you say 94?
I started my master's in 1994, yes.
Okay.
And did a 2-year degree. I actually did the counseling psychology track as well as the psychology track. So I did 2 weekends a month for 2 years. I came here as a full-time student, so it was wonderful. And then I decided I wanted to stay, so I started doing my physiotherapy, and then I applied for my green card. And I was actually married at the time, and we got divorced. We came over married and got divorced, and then I stayed here for a little bit longer and thought I was going to go home to Australia, and then along came Ulf. So
okay, yeah,
my husband.
Yeah,
That's why I'm still here.
Is he Australian too?
He's Swedish.
Swedish. Okay, you're Swedish. Yeah, that's a Swedish name.
Yeah,
so that
Israelson.
makes sense. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And how long have you been together now?
20 years.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
it's lovely.
Yeah.
So, so talk about when you were in Australia then, and you were a physiotherapist. What is a physiotherapist, and what did you do with your clients?
Well, I was a sports medicine physiotherapist, so I focused on sports injuries.
Okay.
So specifically, people came with acute, sprained their ankle, pulled their shoulder, hurt their back, lifting, well, even sports injury, but, doing something on the ladder or doing something.
Right.
But some acute sprain or strain into the physical body. And so my practice was Mossman Physiotherapy and Sports Injury Centre. And I had a good referral, doctors, and so they sent people to me with a physical problem. Like, I've actually got a sprain.
From an injury.
An injury,
something.
right,
yeah.
Exactly. What I discovered was, though, I just knew people were getting better for some other reason, and it wasn't just the skills I was doing. And you were talking about my hands, but sorry, you asked about physical therapy. So physiotherapists in Australia train. I always say train a bit like medicine, and then you actually specialize in what area. So you can go into pediatrics, oncology,
orthopedics.
Yeah. And so mine would be the orthopedics, but I did the sports medicine orthopedics.
Okay.
And then just built a wonderful practice.
Yeah.
There.
And that's where you discovered the deeper part. What you started to say was that was more than just the physical injury that was going on.
I realized people were talking to me and sharing things. I'd be, putting my hand on their neck, and they'd be sharing something about their relationship or their kid, or they'd say, look, my back's hurting, and I'd be suddenly treating their knee, and I didn't know why I'd be touching their knee, and I'd have to make up a reason why I was down on their knee when they came in with lower back pain or something. There was these things starting to happen that I was like, whoa, what's going on here?
You needed to figure out what was going on.
And so I started to realize that there was, and that took me then into this exploration of the emotional world. And started coming over to the United States to do courses, actually.
Yeah.
And I'd fly over for 2 weeks and
oh my goodness.
And do a 2-week workshop or come over. And eventually, it's by doing that is how I realized I needed to do a master's. And in Australia, they wanted me to go back and do my undergraduate, and I said, no, I'm not doing that. I'm going.
Well, you knew where you belonged at that point. You knew you were on the road.
Yeah.
You had a mission that it found you, basically. Yep. I mean, you found it found you. However that worked, it came together that said you had to keep on that track, which you did, because the work you're doing is pretty phenomenal, and you're obviously meant to be doing this work.
Yes, it's definitely a calling, and I definitely feel I'm in a real place of service now. I've done it for long enough. I've actually been a physio since 82, so no, 81. I think I graduated. So whatever that is, I'm nearly nearly
Let's
40,
see, well,
nearly 40 years, right?
Yeah, for over 40 years
I can't believe
ago.
I'm that old, but
Yeah,
anyway.
that's when I graduated college. Yeah, 41 years ago in 1980. Yeah, same kind of thing. And it's sort of life gets to you. So let's talk about you've coined what you do, which is body-centered medicine. That's your trademark, your
That's right.
phrase.
Yes.
Let's talk about what your practice is. What is body-centered? You took these courses that led you to understand that if someone does have an injury, there's something deeper going on that has to be dealt with in order for this injury really to go away and not keep rearing its ugly head, literally. Right?
Yes. And well, what happened after the Masters, I went on to do my somatic movement training. So I did, I was probably in that for about 10 years. I had an extraordinary experience of just learning about the somatic body, being in the sensations of the body, listening to the feelings and sensations. So that what that did to my work is that anybody who, and my main focus is pain and anxiety, but what that did to my work is I invite, if you've got a reoccurring or unresolved issue, it usually turns up in pain in the body somewhere or some sort of body symptom. And often there's an anxiety associated with it. So I moved into, actually my business used to be called Body Freedom, and then I've changed it to Body-Centered Medicine because it's listening to what's that pain holding, if I've got a pain in my shoulder, if I've got reoccurring pain in my neck that's not resolving, if I've got this hip that just doesn't let go, it keeps coming back, or I get these stomach aches. And then there's something trying to come through. The body's trying to tell you something, and we're just not geared to listen. We try and do it all rationally. We try and do it through our conscious thought. And actually, this work's about dropping into the subconscious. It's about going in underneath and listening. What have I buried? So, for instance, my stomach aches, turned out to be a very terrorized little girl who was really afraid, and so then I went on to have anxiety, and then I'd be sort of an anxious, highly alert sort of human being, and really my work's about listening to what's that vibration, what's that energy behind, what's that information, and there is a voice there. There's always information. And then trying to find that calmness, trying to find that peace, trying to calm the systems down so I'm not living in this flight, fight, or resistance. A lot of people resist. It's like, yes, I've got this pain. Yeah, I've got this issue. Yes, I can't find the relationship. I don't have enough money. And there's a contraction around it.
Yeah.
And that contraction
makes it worse.
And that makes it worse. And that contraction's in the body.
Yeah. And that, and it requires listening, and it requires having the tools to be able to work from the inside out, and finding someone like you can be life-changing, literally, be able to do that, because what you're saying makes so much sense.
Thank you.
And I've really intrigued. My last guests that were on the show, they actually wrote a book because they work from the inside out too. They are psychologists, but they're psychologists that talk about dealing with what's going on inside of you in order to heal everything from the inside out. And it's similar, but they don't do the physical work that you do. So they have a little bit different touch. So this is almost like a continuation of my last show. And I find it very, very fascinating because it's so logical. It makes so much sense. And we, are fast-paced. We have slowed down a bit with the pandemic, but our fast-paced world doesn't let us listen to us. Like you said, if you have an injury, you got to listen deeper. What is that? And instead of, I can, like your dad, I can barrel through this. I have this scheduled tomorrow. I've got to do this for the kids, blah, blah, blah. And you're on this cycle that's only going to make it worse.
Right.
And I can attest to being a victim of that. So, and now holding on to things that are creeping in that I know have history.
That's right.
I know they have history, and I will talk to you about this separately, not on the show. But now that I'm talking to people like you that do the kind of work, it is so logical to me that it's more than just an old injury from all the sports I did. There's something that's not going away that is now getting even worse. It's causing other things to happen. So I know I got to go way back to figure out and get rid of certain things that you did for yourself with your gut issues. So this body-centered medicine, how would you term that in terms of describe it, define it?
Yeah, I call it, it's sort of body therapy. It's actually using a lot of therapy, mindfulness, there's lots of stuff around that. Or even therapy often is talk therapy, and there's certainly quite a number of therapists now doing more somatic work. Where I find body-centered medicine, it's really acknowledging that I'm not listening to what's being held in the mind or what I think's there, but what am I feeling and what's the truer. It's like often that pain that we're resisting or that issue we're resisting or whatever we're holding, that trauma we've got in our body, is actually stopping from a truer self to be revealed.
And that's really where our mission is to find because that gives us the freedom to move forward in a positive, healthy way.
So me as I was very blessed to become a physiotherapist. I was, moving in the medical direction. The feeling into where I live now, as a physiotherapist, I was great, but I used to work 12 hours a day. I'd see 3 people an hour. I had assistants. I mean, it was go, go, go on, just dang. And I was obviously reasonably good at it.
Well, obviously, if you were that busy, or the referrals were probably endless.
Busy.
Yeah.
But then I recognize now that there's this, now when I'm sitting here talking to you, I've got this sort of deep foundational self that I don't have to be rushing, and I've still got my anxious self. I've still got my part that was scared, and she still flares up at time to time. I mean, we had a very dear friend, and I did share with you, just passed away.
I'm sorry.
And that really triggered, some fear and upset and sadness. But then there's this now, it's this foundation, and I think that with my work is a real longing for people to know that place underneath where you can just be in yourself and you're just okay with yourself. We're not in comparison or judgments or I should be getting this done, or you've got that old voice, critical voice or whatever on top of you.
That you're not enough and you got it. Yeah.
Yeah. So all of that is in the body symptoms or in the pain or in the anxiety. But then there's this self deep down that just is gorgeous. It's like that's who you are.
And you want to discover that. So
I want to help people discover that. Yeah.
How do people know it's time to come see you?
It's a great question.
What are the
people who come and see me
signs?
Have often there's a few signs. One, they've usually tried lots of other things. Mm-hmm. That's number one. Or number two, someone's recommended. They say, hey, I'm working with you with this. I'm a therapist, or I'm a trainer, or I'm, whatever they're doing.
You've only gotten so far.
And there's more here. Mm-hmm. There's something emotional. There's something deeper that needs to be explored. So they'll come in. So it's usually something that's reoccurring, someplace where they're stuck in their life, someplace where they're not feeling, they're not moving forward, or just know they're just going back. It's that you're on that merry-go-round, that same... Here's this cycle again. Here's this same boyfriend, or here's this same issue, or here's this same...
Here's where the therapy comes in, too, having the psychology background.
Then looking at it, the work with body-centered medicine is like, okay, but looking, where is that turning up in your body? And then how do we listen to that, give that a voice, move through that, hold that hand of that, so then you can move past. So that's often you actually, and therapist, I think you said earlier, but hold the hand of. You want to turn towards what is there, and then and so that's the only way, because you want to bring it to consciousness. It's the only way you
Sort
can
of
actually
unlock
transform
it.
unlock it.
Yeah.
And a lot of people are really afraid to do that.
And let's talk about that, because you talk a lot about, this is on your website, you talk a lot about courage.
Yes.
And having the courage means really to first identify that
Right.
it is something deep, and then taking steps towards seeing you or someone like you to be able to open that door and unlock.
Thank you. Yes, it is a very courageous act. It takes a lot of courage to do this. You know, when we've locked some things away, it means we've built up a big defense. We've got a defense or protection, and
Of course, a shield.
And it's been very positive, right? That's helped you survive. Certainly mine did. Got me through my childhood. But then it doesn't serve. It's not serving me anymore. So I want to find. I want to be able to. Well, let me go back to courage. I have to have that willingness or that drive, which is the courage to say, yes, I know I'm here, but I know there's more for me. I know I can move through this. Not let the fear or the resistance. I just had a client recently who has a really strong protector. She had a terrible childhood, very abusive, and her protector is so strong. She's going to be a bit of work for that.
You got a challenge ahead of you, it sounds like.
Yes.
Yeah.
But most people, by the time they come to me, they know, or they've got this anxiety and they've heard that that's what I work with. So that's
Right,
how
so
they
they've
get there.
already know that you're going to take them through a process.
Yes, exactly.
So someone comes to you, they've taken that step. Can you talk us through a little bit about how, I mean, you could be generic or specific with somebody from the past, but how would you work with them? Or I can give you an example. I could use me as an example. So let me say, if I was to come to you and say, so I have a couple of old injuries that I'm hanging on to, the fact that my knees are shot and, I haven't physically went and got them fixed other than physical therapy. That's one place. But for the last 10 years or so, and I know this is a nerve or almost, I'm getting very transparent now, but it could also be some sort of, there's some kind of blockage where my hands and feet go numb when I'm in a lying down position. And not 100%, but there's that tingle feeling. Something's blocked. Something's causing this, which in turn is keeping other things from healing properly. I've done a lot of work in terms of, this would be post divorce 9 years ago now. I've done a lot of work on myself in terms of being a kinder, gentler soul, sort of from the inside out. But there is some physical manifestations that are happening within me that I can't seem to undo. So I come to you.
So that's perfect. That's someone that's got, okay, I've got these symptoms, I've done a lot of work, but there's something that's just not resolving. So then we look at, we go in, I love using breath. I love using, turning your attention inward, and you go to the feeling state of the tingling. And then we find out who or what is tingling.
Oh, interesting.
Who or what is
I always block it away. I always
there you go.
just...
So we want to, you turn, and you block it away because?
Well, because it's usually I'm lying down. It's usually at night, and I'm trying to go to sleep. And now I'm sort of used to it. I'm sort of gotten complacent with it, and I don't want to, because I know it's actually gotten worse. It started like in a foot, and now it's in my hands. Or no, it started in my left arm, and now it's both arms, and now so I'm like, okay, there's a bigger issue going on here.
So you actually, and you've had it checked out medically? I always check with that. As a physical therapist, I want to make on the physical level, there's nothing going on.
Right. I've had just recently, I've had a complete physical. And
they took x-rays, or you told the doctor about it?
Yeah. This is one of those things where they can't find anything, and they think,
So that's another thing that's good to come and see me. There's nothing wrong. You've ruled out all ABC. So, for instance, one woman, I'll give you an example of one woman who's coming to see me right now, has seen me for a few years. She came with this. She actually came to a workshop. A lot of times that's how people get know about my work, because I do a
we're going to
2
talk
hour
about
or
how
3
people
hour
can
or
get in on that.
do different things. Anyway, so she came. She had this. Was in tears after I think it was an hour and a half or 2 hour workshop, because she's had this reoccurring neck and shoulder pain. And she just knew, she'd had the x-rays. She's always had treatment on it. It just never any better. But it turned out, what's turned out for her now is that she needed to get divorced. She was in an abusive relationship. But more than that, is she wasn't speaking her voice. She wasn't speaking up. She's extremely creative. She's this amazing woman, pianist and composer or whatever. But she let it all be under her husband. She sort of submitted to him.
So how do you bring that out in a client to see? Because
I have to start. I start with the physical.
Okay.
So I would start with you. I'd
Okay.
start with the physical symptoms.
Yeah.
And then the physical symptoms lead to. So now, whenever, for instance, with her, lead to more information.
Okay.
So when we work with her neck now, when she starts talking about her now ex-husband, her neck just, and when she moves deeper down in and finds what she needs to be doing, what she's here to move into her life, everything relaxes, the neck relaxes. I mean, I've literally had I've got a client who went from 10 out of 10, 11 out of 10, crawled into my practice and left, an hour later as 4 out of 10, walked out.
Yeah.
But she'd also someone I've worked with a lot. We've done a lot of work together. She got straight in to what the issue was, what that pain.
You found it right away.
Straight away.
Yeah.
And she rings me every now and then when there's something really acute going on, and she can't get to herself. And it's mind-blowing how quickly. Now, with this one I talked about with the divorce, and maybe even with your tingling, sometimes that's a process of like, okay, well, we start with the physical. What is the physical? So what's going on there? What's the feeling? What's the sensation? If we separated it out and it sat beside you, what might it say? What might it look like? What might it feel like? And then we just sort of keep exploring, and then usually some other aspects of self come out. So because it's usually entwined with other things, so it's not just often one. So then we have to separate that out, and slowly you just it's like you spiral down to find the truth. And
Wow.
it's really
very potent.
It's very
It's almost
exciting.
It's almost like getting rid of debt, getting rid of pain,
It is.
just one little piece at a time.
And sometimes it can be really
Yeah.
quick, and sometimes. So, for instance, the one I told you about, who got divorced, that's taken us. I'm probably seeing her for a year and a half now or something. But we've moved on to other things. I mean, this process of finding her voice, finding what she was passionate about when she was 20, and now she's in her 60s. And it's not too late. It's like, let's go.
Oh, it's never too late. I'm a total reinvention, which everybody who watches my show knows.
Totally.
But yeah, I reinvent. And you keep finding ways that you feel your value is needed.
Exactly.
And you educate. I just got out of school a year and a half ago, doing understanding hormones and women and their bodies. And I know you work a lot with women. I know you work with men too, but
predominantly, it is predominantly women. I get the men of the women I work with.
Yeah, that's what happes. I get the men and I get the kids also of my clients.
Actually, and I have actually started. I don't know. I realize I've always seen this age group, but the 20 to 30-year-old girls who are really looking for their voice. They're not quite sure
really
of themselves.
Tough age anyway.
It's a really tough age, and it's just super for them to start to connect. Because often, and you've probably been through this experience, Debbie, we do this work as we get older and we go through things that happen in our life with breakups, or a job doesn't work out, or, things happen.
The advantage of age. Yeah.
But we discover those things, and we discover our true self just through our failures and traumas, and,
Big time.
But these young girls are still, and it's still working themselves out. And it's been really, really, really exciting for me to see them finding their, if you will, their empowered feminine self. So yes, I do work with women because that's been my journey too, to find my voice. And I had a very overpowering, dominating father who, my mother couldn't, when my father died, my mother didn't even know how to write a check. She didn't know anything about finances. She just, she washed and cooked and was submissive.
That always brings us to why we do what we do for what we see when we were younger, what we see, what we hear, and in your case, in my case, obviously, what we absorbed.
Yes.
That was on the negative end. Yes. So we have to work on ourselves so we can go and continue our education and help others. Yeah. And I think that's just, really commendable for what you're doing. So can you elaborate, because with the anxiety, the here and now, kind of what we're going through globally, the here and now. Can you elaborate on helping people work through anxiety and how that's going to come out and it's going to start, tension in the neck, which is going to cause something bigger? And how can people work through that? How can we, what can we give to our at-home listeners right now who may be a little anxious, not sleeping?
Well, I think there's extraordinary amount of anxiety. And here in California, we've had the heat and the fires and the COVID, and it's just like, whoa, I mean, we're a little bit overload. But everyone, I speak to people all over the world. And that beautiful Zoom or video allows us to be in touch, have clients and connect with people around the world. So this work is absolutely key to getting through. This is from my perspective, getting through this time. If you don't have a relationship with your inner body, if you don't know how to ground and connect inside, if you're thinking thoughts, or you're running the what ifs, or you've got the fear going, what it does is it keeps the body in flight, freeze.
Cortisol
it keeps
goes,
it's always that your nervous system's just completely being activated, which of course is why you can't sleep, or I've heard a lot of people put on weight. My husband and I have actually lost weight on the COVID because we're at home and we're eating really well and we're cooking at home.
And cooking healthy at home is one of the number one things I tell my clients to do, because you're in control of what's going in the food and how to cook it and how to be healthy the way you cook it and the way you eat it. And
we're not eating out. We travel a bit, so we're not doing any traveling. We're not eating out. People aren't having us over for dinner. Not that usually they're healthy as well, but we've just
you're in control.
Control. So I think for this listening, it's being about how do I, first of all, quieten that very active mind. How do I calm my nervous system? Because that's really been my journey. How do I quieten this system so I can listen to what I need? So I know when I need to go and take a nap, when I know when I need to just take a few deep breaths, when I know when I want to ring a friend, I'm feeling lonely or sad, when to reach out. It's for anxiety, and knowing it really well, sometimes that anxious self can just sort of grab hold of you and run, and you just can't.
That's what
you can't grab it. And so then for that anxious self, you distract yourself, go outside, stand in the grass, do some of those grounding exercises. I'm sure that people I
taught people to do for anxiety.
And it's listening to. So what I would say, here's something I'd say. First of all, identify where that anxious self lives in your body. So we don't all have it in the same place. And if it's not an anxious self, if you haven't got an anxious self, because someone said to me the other day, I'm not anxious. I was that when my son was really sick, so I don't have that. I don't have fear anymore. But she has places where she's stuck. So where you might be feeling stuck in your life, or you've got some reoccurring pain, or as you say, the anxiety, place your hand on it. So mine happens to be in my belly. It could be in your neck. It can turn up in hips and knees and shoulders and all sorts of places. And so it's like, so identify where it is that you're feeling anxious, or that that's something that's getting stuck in your body. So for you, it would be the tingling.
Yeah.
You put your attention and breath into the area. So just be with it. Hold it. Just sort of sense how it's affecting my body. So when I go to or I'm going to talk about another client, but this happens to me too. When I get anxious, I tighten then I roll forward,
Mm-hmm.
then I crunch my shoulders, my neck gets tight, and then I get neck pain.
It's a
right?
snowball effect.
So then as I be with it and hold it, my body starts to relax. And again, this is one of my clients did this yesterday. So this starts to soften. It naturally allows this to open, my neck and shoulders to roll open, my heart open, and then my head can soften back up.
So you have all these little ways of helping people depending on where the source.
And then you want to give it the last piece I'd say for people is like, well, what is it it's trying to tell you? So, for instance, with your tingling, you bring your breath and attention to it, you feel into it, you be with it, and then you see, well, you know, what might be there. And oftentimes it's hard to do it yourself, so that's why.
You need a practitioner that knows exactly what she's talking about and what you're doing. And you do have, which I want to tell the listeners because we're getting into our last 5 minutes, and I want to make sure that everybody knows a couple things. If you go to Tarnie's website, there are free downloads of meditations on there.
It's actually on my YouTube.
Oh, it's on
YouTube. If you go to my,
it's on your website that takes you to your YouTube.
It does, that's right.
It
You're
does.
right.
Yeah.
You're right.
Because I've done it.
Yes, that's right. You're right.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's easy enough and you could go straight to YouTube, but your website kind of leads you into it. Yeah. And then, which is a great way for people to kind of work with you. You know,
get introduced to
get
the work.
introduced.
So there's the free videos. They're movement related. I also have a free Tuesday night meditation series. That's again that's just being.
So you're doing that over Zoom.
I do that over Zoom on Tuesdays.
And that's live. From when to when Pacific time?
It's from 5 till 5:30 Pacific time, and then you can stay on and talk if you want to with the group afterwards. But from 5 to 5:30 every Tuesday, and you do get the replays. So if you can't make it, then we send out the replays. You just have to sign up for them. That's all.
That's really
lovely.
lovely.
You can get the replays.
That's really lovely that you're doing that right now.
And then I've got a Thursday morning class, which is movement. That's actually more of feminine empowerment. That's really just it's for women, and it's about definitely moving more into the feminine body.
Oh, and so it's movement, and it's more generalized, right? For women
it's very specifically into moving into and listening to what we've been talking about. It's
right. How to identify you
it's
and
not
what's going on
necessarily
in your body.
It's not a healing. I don't take you through a healing process.
Right.
It's about learning to listen and feel and become more embodied.
Lovely.
Yeah.
Oh, I like that. And we're putting all kinds of things up on the screen on the way people can find that.
Right.
And so you mentioned workshops. What are you doing those during now?
I haven't got anything. Yes, I have got a workshop starting in October. It's a 6-week. It's just an introduction. It's my first module in training in learning about body-centered medicine and how to use it yourself and how to use it with other people.
Yeah.
So for practitioners as well as the general public, but it's techniques of how learning the tools and techniques of body-centered medicine.
Yeah, which we're talking about now is so important, so valuable to have for everything going on in your life that could be throwing you off, anything in your life.
We want to calm the system and see what it is, what's reoccurring, what are you not being able to what are you not being able to move past, and the body-centered medicine work.
I love this. You have this on your website. It is a quote by Daria. Yeah, Halperin.
Her mother was Halperin. I can't think of her name right now. Anyway, she was a well-known dancer.
A healer. So this quote. I love this quote because this sort of tells everything.
It does.
It does. Our bodies hold our entire life story right there. The physical body is full of messages about who we are, how we feel, and what we think. If we don't listen to the messages in our body, this powerhouse starts yelling in one form or another, emerging as physical illness and mental distress. And that's really what we're talking about.
Exactly.
This is it in a nutshell. This is it. And people can reach out to you, and you can work with anybody, anywhere, anytime to help them master this. I love that. So we tell people how to get a hold of you. Let's talk about it, because some people are listening to us and can't see your website on the screen. And then I want you to leave us with a final thought, final few words,
Okay.
quote, advice, whatever it is you want to leave us with.
Thank you.
So
you can find me at www.Tarnie, T-A-R, there's an R in there for the Americans, N-I-E, Fulloon, Fulloon.com. You can also call me on my work number 626. It's a landline, so don't text. 626-296-2002. That's +1 USA. And you can email at tarniefulloon.com.
That's great. And before you give us your final thoughts, do you have a physical office that people can go to?
Yes, yes. I have. I'm very grateful. My husband helped built me a studio at the back of our property, so I have it on my house. So I get to.
And you're in Pasadena,
and
California.
I'm in Pasadena, California.
Okay,
yes.
Lovely, love it.
So my final thought is, and we all hear this, is to be kind and compassionate to yourself. But what I often say to my clients is, turn towards yourself and just allow yourself to be with everything that's there. We too often try and walk away or, push something aside or don't want to deal with it. And really the gift is if you can turn towards yourself and see what's there and not be afraid of it. Not be afraid of it. Be courageous and say, wow, be curious about what's there.
Oh, that's wonderful parting thoughts. Look inside. Turn towards yourself. I love that. Thank you.
Yeah.
Wow. I hope you guys really, Tarnie, thank you, because this was
Debbie.
very beneficial. We're all, I know we're all going in our heads right now like, oh, that tingle, that constant stomach ache I had, or my shoulder pain. Now I know there's something's deeper. There's a story behind it. So let's seek it out. Go for it. So I want to remind you and thank you for joining me today, but I do have a contest going. It's great. All you have to do is subscribe to my YouTube channel, which is Balanced Life by Debbie YouTube. Hit subscribe and we're there. Let me know you did it if you like, but I do get the notifications. You will be entered to win a contest with value over $2,000. And I will be announcing the winner on my next show, which is September 22nd, which is 2 weeks from today. And in the meantime, just like the conversation we had here, I want you to keep going out and finding those conversations that connect to a healthier you. So goodbye, everybody, and I'll see you in 2 weeks. Bye, and thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Debbie. That was great. Thank you.